Good afternoon, ladies. I'm gonna pause here and just kind of wait for a couple of people to jump on. I know there are a lot of you ladies who are working right now. We're at different time zones, different parts of the country, different countries even. And so I know that some people will catch this as a replay, but I'm gonna wait for just a moment for those who want to catch it live to jump in. And I'm gonna start with a couple of announcements while I'm waiting. Number one, you know, I'm excited that this group has grown so quickly. We're at 180 members already. I think maybe last I looked, maybe 182. That so what it tells me is that there are a lot of doc moms and women in medicine who are waking up to the possibility of that. Creating the ideal career, creating your ideal career, and not being stuck in this society's view or industry view of what medicine has to be, but really being able to create what you want, seeing that that is possible. Yeah, because I think that there's a lot of resignation in our community, and the fact that there are so many people jumping into the group, sharing the group, getting to see where everyone is actually very much a heartwarming process for me. So I just want to thank everyone who is in the group, and I'm hoping that this training will be of value to you. And I'm going to be doing these trainings weekly is my goal, and so I'll be announcing at the beginning of the week what the topic will be. Like I said in the first Facebook Live, my goal is to provide value and to offer you an outlet to express what it is that you need, and to be a source for Q&A, as well as ongoing coaching should you need it. So that's, what I wanted to start out with now. A little announcement, sort of shameless plug, is you all know that I do run programs for women in medicine who are thinking about transition, in transition, and so I just opened up my mastermind. I am looking for 20 women, that's all I'm looking for right now, who are ready to shift and change their lives, transition their careers, build and create that ideal career. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, oh, you know what, I might like to learn more about that, then you can schedule your free strategy session with me, and I'll take you through a process that will determine whether you're appropriate for the group, eligible for the mastermind, or if there's some other program that could work for you. So that's that. Now, I want to go ahead and get straight into our topic. And by the way, if you want to schedule that strategy session, I will put the link in the comments. Actually, I'll do that right now before I forget. So when you come on, if you come on, please announce yourself. Because I would love to know who's watching. And if you have any questions during the time that I'm doing the training, please go ahead and ask the questions. And as I see them, I will answer the questions as well. And after, even if you're catching this on the replay, if you have any questions, if you want any sort of personal view on your situation, just post in the comments, and I'll either reach out to you or I'll be able to answer in the comments. So I just want you to make sure that whether you're watching it live or whether you're watching the replay, just chime in. Let me know that you were there. Let me know what you enjoyed about the training, and what questions you have that I can answer for you. Okay? So I chose this topic, this first topic of contemplation, clarity, and the process of change, because as I am, as people are jumping in, they're the three, most of you had to answer 3 questions upon requesting to join. And the reason I put those 3 questions in there was, number one, to screen to make sure we have physician and physician equivalents in the group, because I am very committed to this being a protected group, but also to kind of get a feel for where everyone is in their process of transition, and to get a feel for what you all are most struggling with. And what I'm seeing a lot of is there's a lot of a lot of you all who are thinking about transitioning or starting the active process of looking, and I hear a lot of, not sure which way to go, not sure what resources there are, not sure, nervous about the transition and what that might take. And so what is the foundation of becoming more confident in and becoming more clear about where you're going is knowing that what stage of change that you're in, what process of change, knowing that stage you're in the process of change, and getting very, very clear about what you want. So that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. So before I get right into this gaining clarity, this process of gaining clarity, I kind of want to review that the process of change, the stages of change, as it relates and has to do with the process of job transition or career transition in medicine. So if you think about how we entered our field, we were kind of on this moving sidewalk. And some of you who have watched the webinar, this is going to be familiar. So I talk a lot about this in the webinar that I have, 5 Steps to Reclaim Your Time and Create Your Ideal Career. And that's posted in the About section if you wanted to hear the whole webinar. But, a lot of times we start this process with a path laid before us. The path is there. You do this, you take the MCAT, you apply to medical school through the I think it's the ERAS process, if I remember correctly. I feel old, but the ERAS process. You or the AMCAS, it's AMCAS, ERAS is the residency. So the AMCAS process. You apply to medical schools, you get your secondary applications, you know what to do, you're on the path. So then you get into medical school, and the next 4 years is laid before you. There's no question about what you have to do. Nobody really asks, well, what's your vision of life? What's your vision of practice? It's just like, no, you got to get out of medical school. Like, that's your vision. Then come 4th year, you got your step 1, your step 2, and then come 4th year, your vision is get into residency. And by this time you are thinking, yeah, I know about what specialty I want, but you're not necessarily thinking about even the longer term, like, okay, what's the lifestyle that I want? What is the what is the long-term goal of my career? What is it that I really want from my life? It's just get out of medical school, get into residency. So that's, so then you step off one moving sidewalk as you're applying for the specialty that you want, and then you step onto another moving sidewalk as you get into your residency and you start that process, because it's another intensive timeline of training. And by the time you get to the end of residency, you had this idea that you wanted to be a doctor, but nobody really asked you what you wanted, what your vision was inside of your career, more so than, what specialty do you want to be? But there's so much more to that than just what specialty, as most of you all are seeing. So we jump into our jobs after residency, or our careers, what looks good, what feels good, not having really assessed what it is that we really envision for our careers and for our lives long term. So, in this way, we're sort of moving along what I would call pre-contemplation, not really knowing that there's a problem. And maybe there isn't a problem, but most time the problem is you haven't really considered what you want, so you're just blindly going into your career because after residency, you just want to get a job. Now, here we are, some years after residency, some it's 4 years. And I've talked to early career physicians who are 3, 4, 5 years out, who are already beginning to think about this transition, all the way to, 10, 12, 20 years out, who are, burned out and wanting to do this transition. And so here we are, you've realized, okay, there's got to be more. And your consciousness is raised to, there's something that's got to give. So you move into this stage of contemplation, right? As a stage of change. Contemplation. What else is there? What else is available? And that's what I'm hearing that where a lot of people in the group are. Now, after the stage of contemplation, once you kind of get clear, and this is the value of the training today, like that getting clarity process, once you get clear, then you can go into the preparation stage of change. And the preparation is just as important as the action. And I'm going to do preparation in a different training. But what I want to say is a lot of times we jump from contemplation to action, and that's where we get into trouble. When we're just contemplating, but there's no preparation, there's no system or structure to prepare ourselves to actually transition. There's just, oh, I'm thinking about it, oh, I'm doing it, because we haven't developed the muscles or the clarity even to avoid jumping out of the frying pan and into the fire. So this contemplation stage is a really good opportunity to begin to get clarity about what you want, so that you can then know what a clear pathway is, or you can create a clear pathway. Otherwise, in our industry, in the non-clinical arena, in the clinical arena, there are so many different pathways, even in a specific specialty. As an example, I'm a family doc. And as a family doc, you can do full spectrum family practice, you can do just outpatient, you can do urgent care, you can do integrative medicine, functional medicine, you can do maternal and child health, adolescent medicine, sports medicine. I mean, there's all these different pathways, and these are some sort of subspecialties. You can be in private practice, you can be in group practice, you can be a consultant, you can be a coach. There's like a gobs of pathways. And you can be an administrator, you can go non-clinical, leadership, academic. There's all these pathways. So when you get clear about what you want, you narrow the amount of pathways, and it's not so overwhelming, right? So, you get clear about what you want, and then 1,000 pathways becomes maybe 5 or 6. And then you start to deepen that clarity by looking at what is it that you don't want? And then the 5 or 6 pathways becomes 2 or 3. And then you're starting to really be able to streamline your process of looking at what to do next. And you save yourself energy and time in looking at the resources that are available, and the pathways and the structures and things that are available. Okay. So that's the importance of this contemplation phase, and getting clarity inside of this particular stage of change. So in terms of the clarity, well, what is it that, how is it that you get that clarity? How is it that you start to know what it is that you want? Well, first of all, you can think back to why you went into medicine in the first place. Why did you choose this industry? Why did you choose the specialty that you chose? And there are a lot of ways to get to the root of what you really want. And so the first thing I always ask when I'm doing my free strategy sessions, to really try to pull out the ideal, is, if you had it all your way, what would your ideal job look like? What would your ideal career look like? And this is an exercise you can begin to do now. You just take get a piece of paper, write down, what does that ideal look like for you? And be as specific as possible. Be as specific as possible. Now, some of you may be saying, well, isn't that part of the problem? I'm not clear. I don't know what my ideal would look like, right? So then what you do is you start with logistics. You start with the easy stuff. And the easy stuff is, okay, how many days a week do I want to work? What, how many days a week? What are the hours that I want to work? What's the environment that I want to work in? And you look at, who do I want to work with, people or alone? Do I, what is the staffing situation? Do I want to be employed or not? Do I want to be in my own gig? Do I want to work from home, or do I want to work in a clinic? You start to look at these things, ideally, logistically, what it would look like. Then you look at, well, do I like seeing patients? Now, a lot of times when I'm talking to my clients, what I find is some of them who are thinking about leaving medicine are thinking about leaving medicine because they feel like it's the thing to do, given that they're burned out. But they actually still love clinical medicine. Well, if you still love that patient contact, then there are ways to be able to create the ideal within the clinical scenario, and it could be traditional or not, the non-traditional realm. But if you're, when you're set on this track, we're not encouraged to think outside the box. So that's one of the reasons you're in the group, because that's why I'm here, to kind of help you think outside the box, right? So when you're thinking about, okay, well, what is it do I like? Do I like clinical medicine? Do I actually hate it now? Do I like it, but I just don't like the circumstance that I'm in? You start to like tease that type of thing out. If you like seeing patients, but you like seeing a certain kind of patients, like I have a lot of OBGYN clients, and, some of them are like, well, I like OB. And then many of them are like, well, I want to transition out of OB and I just want to do GYN. So it's, what type of patients do you like if you still like that clinical medicine? What is the environment? So you really start to like explore and look at what you want, not what you'd settle for, not what you'd be happy, not like what you'd be, you'd be okay with, not what you wouldn't mind, but what you really, really want, or what would give you joy, what would bring you happiness if you were sticking to the clinical medicine realm. If you're like, no, I don't really want to do clinical medicine, you want to do more of the administrative, or you want to do something that's outside of that, then we look at, okay, well, what is it that you enjoy? What is it you have enjoyed about your career thus far? That's another way to look at it. You look at, in the time that you've been practicing, remember a time when you actually enjoyed your work. What was happening at that time that you enjoyed your work? Think about it. Like, I had one client who was like, oh, I enjoyed my work when I was the chief resident, and I was doing a lot of planning and process evaluation, and, implementation. And so for her, it wasn't the clinical piece. I mean, she enjoyed that, but what was most present for this client is that she loved the process improvement. And then some people say, oh, when I got to spend this amount of time with patients, and I really got to connect with patients, and they really appreciated what I do. So then for those people, it's that connection, that heart connection with the patient. So you got to look at, well, in the time that I've been practicing, when was I feeling most alive, or most enjoyed what I was doing, and what was I doing at that time? That's another way to begin to get clear about what it is that lights you up about your career, and move you more into clarity about what you want. So there are different exercises, different ways when I'm talking to my doc moms and my ladies in medicine, that I pull these things out of them, so you can really get to the root of, okay, what is the ideal, and start to get clear about the path. So the other thing that, in terms of getting that clarity and being in this contemplation, is we got to be able to hang up our resignation and our cynicism, because that will 100% get in the way of you dreaming big and seeing possibility. When you exist in this state of, oh, well, I can't get what I want anyway, or what I want doesn't exist, and you're unwilling to do the dream big exercise and really create that ideal career, then it really 100% stands in the way of you, even your vision widening, widening to see or to explore other potential possibilities, whether it be in clinical, non-clinical, whether you're wanting to venture into entrepreneurship and start your own blog, or, whatever it is, do some speaking, or do workshops and retreats, or even go into physician well-being, like I've done, go into coaching like I've done. So hanging up your cynicism and resignation makes this process of contemplation clearer. It spreads the clouds, it parts the clouds so that you can see the sunlight. All right. So those are the things that are really important in getting clear about what you want. And then once you start to get clear about what you want, then you start to see there are many pathways, and those pathways can be narrowed as you figure out what you want. Now, to narrow that down even more, you got to look at what you don't want. I always start with what you want, because when you put too much of the vibration of what you don't want out there, then you attract more of what you don't want. So the way you frame it is, I want that without that. I want that without that. I want that, not that. So as you've already gotten what you wanted. You've already distinguished, I should say. Already distinguished what you wanted. And so now you're going back to, okay, what are the deal breakers? All right. If a job came to you with everything you wanted on it, if it had X thing, you would still say no. What are the deal breakers? You got to distinguish the deal breakers, because a lot of times there'll be opportunities out there, whether they're clinical or non-clinical or entrepreneur opportunities, and they seem like they're good. They seem like they check off a lot of the boxes, but then they have this one thing that is like, oh, that's a red flag, or, oh, I really didn't want that. And you have to honor that, because a lot of times we'll say, well, that's not really a big deal. If it's not a big deal, it's not a big deal. But if it's a deal breaker, this is why you have to distinguish your deal breakers. If it is a deal breaker, then you want to exit out. As an example, I have a client who's been looking for a position, and we're working through this process of ideals, and she finds this ideal and had this one thing, which is she didn't want to do inpatient. And so, these jobs are coming and like, oh, it's everything that I wanted, but then they still do some inpatient. Her deal breaker is any inpatient. So then, I have to bring her back to, look, this is a deal breaker. Because what happens is when you compromise for the deal breaker, the absolute deal breaker, then you end up being miserable in the long run. And again, you end up back in the fire. So you distinguish your deal breakers. So you make your list, you make this is my ideal job list. And then on another column, you put deal breakers at the top. You say, this is my deal breaker list. And then there's everything in between, which is, what are the things that you would prefer to not have, but would compromise if it appeared? Like, what are the things that you would be willing to compromise so long as it didn't go to the point of being a deal breaker? And those are the things that are sort of in the middle. So when you kind of get that list is a little bit more nebulous and sometimes comes up as you're actually looking at opportunities, and even some of it comes up as you're interviewing. Some things you can't always know just by the job description, but when you do the phone interview, when you do the in-person interview, when you start to get into whatever it is you're getting into, these things pop up and you have to evaluate. Is this a deal breaker? Or is it one of those, I'm willing to compromise so long as it doesn't go this XYZ far? So when you distinguish those things, then you do have, it does give you a little bit more of a streamlined view of the paths that you could take. Is that clear? So I know we only have a few people on for the live. I want to ask right now if there's any questions. I'll pause here to see if there's any questions. I have about 5 more minutes before I'm going to jump off the training here and jump back into my day. But I wanted to make sure that I really provided you with this bit of training around getting clarity and moving yourself from contemplation to the next stage, which is preparation. That's going to be the training that I next do, is, being in the stage of preparation in the process of change, and why that's so important, and what does it require. So I don't see any questions popping up right now. Hi, Pajma. I just now saw your comment. Do you have any questions for me? Do you have any questions about what I've said so far? Do you, if you have any questions, go ahead and type them in right now. I'll answer that question. Otherwise, will I repost? Yes, I can repost this. The more comments that are in the comment section, the more it'll come to the top. So I will try to announce and repost this with the link a little bit later so you can watch the whole thing. As soon as I end it, it actually posts on the mainstream, so you can watch it as many times as you like. So I thank you for joining me today in the training. And again, if you found value in what you heard, you want to watch the full webinar, you can go to, I'll post the link for the webinar in the comments. If you feel like you're at this place where you really need some assistance in getting that clarity, you need a little bit more one-on-one attention, then you can book a strategy call with me, stressfreemommd.com/booking. The comment is pinned in the links. And as I said earlier, I am opening up the mastermind for women in transition who know they're actively in transition or actively looking to transition and want some support, both from me and for the group dynamic. So if you're interested in that, you can actually also just use that same booking link, schedule a call. We go through the same process, just assessing whether or not you're ready you're a fit for the program, and whether I'm a fit for you. All right, so have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. It's hump day. Let's get through it. Let's get to it. And I will look forward to the comments and questions in the for this training, so that I can continue to provide value until the next training. Look out on the feed for the next Facebook Live training that will be the next process of change, which is preparation, and why that's so important. Okie dokie. So have a wonderful rest of the day. Thanks again for joining me live. And for those who are watching the replay, thanks for watching the replay. I'll see you on the other side.